Okay. Thank you all for joining us this evening. My name is Brandon Pinsker, and I am the Assistant Director of Access New York, the American Jewish Committee's Young Professionals Division. I want to thank our featured guest tonight, Farooq Kathwari, for joining us. I'd also like to thank MALA for their partnership and work in making tonight happen. It is now my honor to introduce Stanley Bergman. Since 1989, Stan has been chairman of the board and CEO of Henry Schein, Inc., a Fortune 500 company and the world's largest provider of healthcare products and services to off-base dental and medical practitioners, with more than 19,000 Team Schein members in operations or affiliates in 31 countries. Stan is a past president of AJC, co-founder of the India-Israel Forum, and together with Farooq is a co-chair of AJC's Muslim Jewish Advisory Council. Stan, I have to mention that your connection to Access New York runs deep. Stan's daughter-in-law, Sharon Bergman, is a current Access New York board member and has held several leadership positions, including as past Access New York co-chair. Stan, thank you so much for being with us. I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Brandon. Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to be here with AJC Access and MALA as you host my dear friend and partner Farooq. Farooq and I became the founding co-chairs of the Muslim Jewish Advisory Council, known as MJAC, an initiative AJC and the Islamic Society of North America, ISNA, co-founded. So we were the co-founding chairs. The MJAC Council was founded actually at a meeting in Marion, my wife and my apartment in New York City in the spring of 2016. I recall that our meeting was the day after the Chicago Cubs won the World Series. So my preparatory notes for that meeting read, "Don't forget to congratulate those from Chicago about the World Series." I turned to my friend Farooq as we started the replied, "Don't worry, it's a baseball thing, very similar to cricket." So Farooq and I, with our common background of the British Commonwealth, we came here as immigrants, one from Kashmir, one from South Africa. We had in common the word cricket, and it was so cool that at that particular event, we could talk about the World Series, cricket, and the exciting job we had to co-lead this initiative, together with the staff from ISNA and the AJC. We both left our place of birth for the promise of this great country, America, built on a foundation of abiding optimism. Even during these most challenging times, as we face a devastating pandemic, polarized politics, and social inequality, we share a belief in the possibility of this country's founding ideal, that all people are entitled to freedom and equal rights. We both came to this great country as young men, started families, helped build businesses here in the United States that have customers in every corner of the globe. We both saw a need for our two communities, American Jews and American Muslims, to better understand each other and work together on areas of common concern as Americans for the benefit of this country. As you will learn in the next hour or so, Farooq has an inspiring story of leadership, courage, determination, providing hope, and yes, humanity. You will feel that when you hear from Farooq. Since Farooq first stepped foot in America on the shores of this great land in 1965, he has truly achieved the American dream through a commitment of enriching lives of countless employees and customers as he built his business, a legendary business, been around a long time, but Farooq took it to new heights. He also had a resolve to preserve his history and his ethnic identity. Farida, his wife, and Farooq are dedicated to creating a better world for all. Simply put, Farooq perfectly exemplifies the best of spirit of this great country, America. And it is fitting that we meet within a few days of this very, very important election. You will learn a lot from Farooq. I have learned a lot from Farooq. It is my great pleasure to hand the floor to Zainab Khan, a member of the board of directors of the Muslim American Leadership Alliance, MALA. Zainab, please.
Thank you so much, Stanley, for the wonderful introduction. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. My name is Zainab Khan, and I am the president of the Muslim American Leadership Alliance, MALA. And our mission and vision is to promote the diverse voices of Muslim Americans and also to showcase the unique contributions of Muslim Americans. And we have collected stories from first generation to fourth generation to showcase and spotlight the unique mosaic of Muslim Americans. We have had a wonderful partnership with AJC New York, AJC Chicago, AJC Los Angeles, and Access as well to bring programming fostered around interfaith relations and to show our unique relationship of Muslim Jewish diasporas and how we relate to one another. Tonight, it is truly an honor to hear the story of Mr. Kathwari. He has been a legend in our own Muslim American community, and he's been a pillar of interfaith connections for all of us. You know, his leadership and dedication to building and supporting community growth are characterized by his efforts to embrace values of inclusion, of tolerance, and to bring visibility to marginalized communities, which now more than ever is needed. He has pioneered new ideas for leadership and for education. And Mr. Kathwari truly displays empathetic and adaptive leadership towards all people, hence starting MJAC, and here we are to hear his incredible story. His own personal story pays tribute to the ancestry groups that comprise America's unique cultural mosaic. And I can't thank you enough, Mr. Kathwari, for joining us this evening and for sharing your words of just a brief glimpse of your life, because it truly is an honor to have you tonight. Thank you again to AJC Access New York, and I will hand the floor over to Hillary.
Thank you, Zainab. And thank you everyone for being here. And Farooq, I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say. As Stanley mentioned, you've had an incredible and fascinating life journey that's outlined in your book. How has someone growing up in the middle of one of the most tense regions in the world go on to become the CEO of a major American corporation? For the audience, what are some of the key moments and experiences that shaped your life?
Well, first of all, it's really a great pleasure to be with all of you, and certainly want to thank Stan for his leadership, for his great comments, for his friendship. It really has been a very tremendously important part of the journey of meeting him and participating with him on a tremendously important mission. About your question about my journey, you know, as you said, I was born in Kashmir, which on one hand has beautiful mountains, valleys, great color, and also on the other hand has been an area of conflict. So I was impacted by both. Our families were involved with arts and crafts for generations, so that was part of it, part of my heritage. My father was also in politics, and when I was growing up, we were impacted by the conflict of Kashmir, the division, and our families got divided. For instance, my mother didn't see two of her children for 10 years. My father didn't see his children, most of his children, for 17 years. So we lived on both sides of the border, and I actually spent 10 years on each side, so I got a great perspective. Growing up in that area of conflict also, it gave me an opportunity to pay attention to sports. As Stan referred to, I was involved with all kinds of sports. Mountain climbing was, of course, our backyard, but cricket was very important, in which I was invariably the captain of the team. And the cricket taught me to lead the team, to play with the team, to be, and to try always to win, which we did. So those were those days. I mean, as I said, being part of a family of which had a great involvement with arts and culture. I had also was involved with my education, of course, came second. My parents wanted me, like most young people at that time, to become either an engineer or a doctor. And without telling them, I went into arts and humanities and studied English literature and political science. They didn't know that. And when they found out it's in a book, my grandfather, the head of the family, got very, very upset. And but that also gave me an opportunity to spend time with people, with my team members, and also to learn about different cultures.
Can you maybe talk a little bit more about being captain of the cricket team? That seems like in your book that's a very specific type of teamwork that's involved that then you've taken on to the rest of your career, whether politically and professionally.
No, absolutely, because see, cricket is a game where the captain plays, leads, is right in the field. I would just say, like, unlike baseball, where the coach is sitting on the sidelines and telling folks what to do, the captain of a cricket team is right there. And the games can go from anywhere from 1 day to 5 days. So you really are deeply involved with it. So the cricket taught me about managing a team, leading a team, inspiring a team, working with a team. And also, sort of, I learned that the leader's job is to help their people become better. This is the team members. So that sort of became part of my DNA, that a captain has to help their people become better, which in fact has helped me in all my life, and especially in the last 30 plus years that I've had to constantly reinvent this great American iconic brand, Ethan Allen, and the principles of cricket. Now, for instance, our associates at Ethan Allen fully understand the principles of cricket. They may not know how the game is played, but they understand that the main job of a leader is to help the team members become better. That's an important, very important aspect. And so that leadership principle has been inculcated throughout our enterprise. And that's how cricket helped me.
Can you also maybe walk us through some of your early experiences about how you, I think it's a fascinating story, how you actually got to America, what that was like?
Well, a lot of things do happen by accident. And in fact, I was playing cricket in Delhi, in India, and there's a very major sort of an unrest in Kashmir, and I decided to come back, and sitting next to me was an American. I must have been 17, 18. And I said, why are you going to Kashmir? You cannot move. He said, well, I'm a journalist from the Washington Evening Star. I said, yes, but of course, I never heard of that. But I said, who's going to take you around? He said, I don't know. I thought about it. I said, I will. Well, I shouldn't have, but for the next 5 days, I took him around to all the troubled areas. And when he reported it, I got into trouble. In fact, I had to go to prison for that. And because I was not supposed to take a journalist around. And he gave my name to an American diplomat who came after a month or two later, and I was not supposed to meet him, but I did, and took him around. And he later on helped me come to America. But again, the other story is that my father, who was not with us, had come to America. And he had gotten a job at the New York's World's Fair. And he on his own decided to apply for me at NYU, Columbia, and City University. Keep in mind, I'm studying English literature. I'm not really playing cricket. So I did get somehow accepted at NYU, and actually Columbia also. And now the problem was how to get to America. It was a journey that was sort of amazing. And the most important part of the journey is how many people helped me. In fact, if you see in the book, my book is really dedicated to so many people, some even strangers who went out of their ways to help me. Otherwise, I would not have come to America. For instance, one of the stories was that in my first or second year of college, I had not attended enough classes. And if you have not attended classes, you can't appear in tests. And the reason I had not attended classes was because I was playing cricket. So I went to the chancellor, vice chancellor, sir, you've got to give me my presence in my attendance because I was playing cricket. He said, why? I said, cricket is not only a game, this teaches you, it's an education. So I went on and on. First he smiled, he laughed, and later on he said, yeah, you're right. And he gave authorization for me to appear in that test. If not, I would not have come to America. So a lot of those things happened where people, I was able, but keep in mind, I had to convince them. So I was always, you might say, in marketing, in sales. So if I had not convinced him, along with many others, I didn't have the right papers. I had to convince a pilot to leave Kashmir because the weather was bad, but I spent a lot of time and he finally left. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come to America. So all of those instances really helped me. And I would say it was an instinct of marketing, of convincing people and working hard to make it happen.
Yeah, there's some fascinating stories, and I highly recommend that everyone reads the book. It's called Trailblazer, From the Mountains of Kashmir to the Summit of Global Business and Beyond. Something that also I found remarkable in the book was, and as you said, how it's dedicated to many people, is that gratitude and graciousness that you share with people, whether it's going out of your way to go back and thank the police officer who let you into the airport in Pakistan. So it's really, truly inspiring, and I hope that everyone will read it. If you have any questions during the conversation, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen, and we'll ask them during the Q&A portion afterwards. From all of those experiences, you've had an amazing ability to navigate tense conversations, whether it's in CEO boardrooms between the Pakistani and Indian government, or 30 different leaders of different groups in Jammu and Kashmir. What do you attribute to the success in the area and in getting able to get people to talk to each other?
Yes, well, I've been fortunate in the sense that I've had an opportunity of working with people, but also keep in mind that even though I came from this area of conflict and there were differences, different religions, but I never looked upon anybody as different. I never did, and I still don't. I don't look upon people as being, whether they have different religions or different colors, or it's my DNA. And that has a very important aspect because a lot of times we create our own problems in the way we present, look at people. Now, for instance, when I was involved with, coming to the States, I did not know what to study. I did not know what job I'm going to get. But going back to this question that you said about the opportunity of working with people, it really is, it is something that you have to empathize with the point of view of others. Otherwise, people are not going to talk to you. For instance, one of the meetings one of those meetings that you talked about was in Kathmandu, Nepal. It's in the book. This was about the issue of Kashmir. I was actually invited by, initially, the Prime Minister of India to come at a time where there was a tremendous amount of conflict in Kashmir. People were in jails, tremendous problems. So he asked me to come with some ideas. I said, well, the first thing I've got to do is meet Kashmiri leaders, and they were in jails. And so they said, you sure you want to go by yourself? Don't want an escort? I said, no. I went, met those leaders, and also found that really they didn't have a plan. They were protesting, but you need to have a plan. Anyway, a lot of things happened. It helped me create and help establish a Kashmir study group. But in many of the meetings, and one of those meetings, after a number of years, was held with the involvement of the governments of Pakistan and India, and the leaders of the Kashmir on all sides decided to have a meeting in Kathmandu with no agenda, because nobody would agree to an agenda, no timetable, and nobody agreeing who's going to lead the meeting. So when I was there too, and anyway, they asked me, and I had thought about it, and I had also consulted some of my Kashmir Study Group members, great scholars and diplomats, and one of them gave me the advice. Which I said to them, I said, if you want me to chair this meeting, there's some conditions. They said, what? I said, first of all, that everybody in this meeting is equal. And you have to do your very best to empathize with the point of view of others. Second, you've got to talk from the bottom of your stomachs. And next is, everybody is going to only speak for 3 or 4 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever it was at that time, and no more. And we will, and next one is don't interrupt when somebody's speaking, because they love to interrupt. They love to talk a lot, which has happened everywhere, but especially there. And the amazing thing was they first looked at each other. In fact, one of the legislators from the region said, it takes me 30 minutes to warm up. I said, no, I'm going to stop you from talking. And interesting was this, that this was one of the first times 30 members of the Kashmir leadership of all religions, different faiths on both sides of the border were meeting, and they never met. And the Indian and Pakistani leaders were in other rooms. So with this kind of a base, after about, 2 hours or 3 hours, they came in and they saw them being happy. We had agreed on the principles. So I think you have to help create a situation where you empathize, you have to make people feel comfortable. Because, my perspective is that when you're talking to somebody, they have a point of view. You can't say that you're completely wrong. If you say that, you're not going to go to the next level. And that's really what's helped me, not only in this, but also in many other areas of my associations.
Thank you. Yeah, that's one of my favorite stories in the book, and it's really inspiring, the way that you've been able to get such success through empathy with others. And that's also led you to working with Muslim-Jewish relations. And so I just wanted to ask, why is it important for you to strengthen Muslim-Jewish relations? And maybe you can talk a little bit about your involvement with AJC's Muslim-Jewish Advisory Council, how it started, and then also it spread to regions across the country, including the newest branch in Louisville, Kentucky.
Well, first of all, in Kashmir, I do not think that I thought I had not met any Jewish person. It just so happened that the American diplomat, his name was Howard Schaefer, was Jewish. I learned that later. When I came to America, in fact, I was very, very lucky. I landed in beautiful New York, and one of the family friends was a family in Brooklyn, the Levies. They adopted me, so Jewish family, and I had no perspective. As I said, I had no good or bad, anything I do not know. From Kashmir was so far off, and we live in the mountains. We really didn't know much about most of the problems of the world. Kashmir had enough of its problems. So I saw them. I was adopted. So I really came to know. My first job that I had was, I did not know what I was going to do. I went to school at night, and I got a job as a bookkeeper when I had never seen any books or any calculator, but I convinced this small little company with printed envelopes, and they were both Jewish. I did not know that. And they took me in, they taught me. And then they recommended after a year that I get a job on Wall Street, because New York University Business School used to be a block from Wall Street. So I said to them, what would I do? I'm studying marketing. That's what I was studying. They said, go and tell them you are a financial analyst because you know enough bookkeeping. I said, what does a financial analyst do? Anyway, I went there and Wall Street, so I went to the first building on Wall Street, won Wall Street, walked up all the floors and got a job at Bear Stearns, at that time, a great iconic Wall Street company, as a junior financial analyst. And a year later, again, mostly Jewish. Now, I did not know this, and I did not even met her, but I came to know the culture, came to know the people. And a year later, I was recruited while I was still at school by the Rothschilds of Europe had set up a company in New York. So, and after that, while I was doing all of this, I had, by accident, my grandfather in Kashmir had sent me 12 wicker baskets of arts and crafts. They said, sell it and going to help you go to school. Well, I set up a business. my folks at the printing company, that's where I was, they printed on my stationery envelopes, and I started doing business. And it was through that one of my associates said, yeah, we know the founder of Ethan Allen. So I met him and I convinced him that, I knew everything I was doing. We wanted some fabrics from Kashmir. I'd never seen them. But anyway, I got into business with Ethan Allen. Now, Nat and Sal had founded Ethan Allen in 1932, a great iconic American brand in Vermont, in the Green Mountains of Vermont. He himself was, his family had been impacted by the Holocaust. So he talked to me, and I had no idea. I could see the sufferings, and I could see what the Jewish people had gone through, because I did not know. So you have to understand that. And we became, of course, he took me under his wing. It's a long story, and in a relatively few years, I became the head of this great iconic American company. And I had now people working, that I had to work with people from the Green Mountains of Vermont to the Blue Ridge Mountains, to Oklahoma, to California, to every state. And I'm sure they had never met somebody with the name of Farooq coming from Kashmir. But they all accepted me because I never saw them with being any difference. So this background of working with Nat and Sal and everything else gave me a lot of perspective, and the Levies, about the Jewish. And I came to understand the issues. And it was actually, I think it was in 2005, David Harris gave me at the AJC the humanitarian award of the year or something like that. It was a great, great event. And to me, it was an amazing thing to get and be recognized by AJC. And of course, I had a pleasure of being recognized by many other organizations and Muslims and Christian. And all of this really led me to understand that we've got to help bring people together. It doesn't matter what it is, and when this situation of MJAC was being created, my background was that I think it was in the in about 2000 or so, 2005 or so, after 9/11, the Chicago Council on Global Affairs established a task force. The task force objective was helping the integration of American Muslims in the country. So they asked me if I would co-chair it with Lynn Martin. She was Secretary of Labor, prior to that a member of Congress, and they put in 40 members together of all kinds. First of all, I asked him, I said, why don't you get somebody who's much more knowledgeable about religion, involved with religious affairs in the Muslim community than me? He said, well, the issue is it's hard for somebody to come in and get everybody together. So we have checked around and you possibly can help it. Not easy. So I co-chaired it. It was because of that, AJC again called me. They said, when they were establishing it, and they said, we'd like you to co-chair with Stanley Bergman. And I again asked him, I said, get somebody else. I'm running an enterprise business. And they said, no, we really would like you to, because you can help get people together. And that's a very important one. It's an obligation. If you can bring people together, you have then the obligation to do it. That's why I did it. And really, I think seeing the people and the work that has been done, not easy. There are differences, and there's the differences. If there's an issue, say something happens in Palestine, Stanley and I know, we have issues, what should we do? So I've always worked very hard to say, okay, we got to work together. We're not going to agree on everything, but we got to work together, and that's very important.
What are how have those conversations played out? Do you not talk about the tense conversations and just talk about the things that you can talk about, or do you talk about all of it, but then, just work on the things that you can together?
Well, it's not much dissimilar to what I would refer to Kathmandu. In fact, once we did that meeting in Kathmandu, I then came to Delhi and met the leadership there. They said, great. Then I went to Pakistan and met at that time with President Musharraf. We said, that's amazing. Why don't we have that same meeting that you had in Kathmandu in Pakistan? Never had happened that some Kashmiris who were not Muslims or who were pro-India would come to Pakistan. They all did. It's an interesting thing that when you work at it and help people do it, people want to to get together. Now, there are differences. I think that it's very important that we should respectfully say that we don't agree with some certain things. But then we cannot say we're not going to talk. We're not going to be together. Once you do that, then you don't go anywhere. You always have to accept there are differences. There are different points of view, and some very held very, very strongly. But the leadership job is to help shape the debate, get people together and make people understand you're not going to agree on everything, but it's very important to work on common areas. And that's what we do.
Thank you. Building off of that, another thing that I loved about your book and that we've talked about so far was your leadership style and its focus on empowering those around you. As we have an audience of primarily young professionals, can you tell us why you think having an entrepreneurial mindset is important for employees at all levels and positions? And in general, what makes a good and effective leader?
Yes, many years back, again, I go back to a little bit of cricket, but other areas too. When I was 30 years back or so, I said, I want to run one team. Now, that's a very hard thing to do. We were a public company. Running one business, one team is not an easy thing to do because most public companies go and buy other companies. I said, no, I'm going to run one team. Keep in mind, Ethan Allen has been profitable every year since in the last 89 years. I don't think any other companies can say that. Now, we have not grown 10 times, 20 times by acquiring other companies. Now, that principle has an impact of what kind of people you're going to have. So we have always said that first, the main job of a leader is to help their people become better. That's simple, but very, very important to keep on. So 30 years back, I also said we should develop some leadership principles. So I thought about them, not some common sense. And, I said, let there be 10 because I was inspired by, Moses having 10. So I said, 10 is a good number. So we established 10. It's on our website. And among them, the first one is, and that's very important, hard work. Leaders have to work hard. Some folks say, especially younger people say, I'm going to work hard when I get a bigger job. No, work hard now. Be passionate about what you do. I am, when I'm at my farm and cutting the grass, I believe that's my only job. Doesn't matter. I'm not doing it for others. So first thing is you got to have passion for what you do, work hard. Then there are other.
You also talk about, I just want to say, you talk about working hard, not just as, putting in the hours, but the willingness to work on hard conversations and to have difficult conversations. So I think that that's important too, both sides of hard work.
Absolutely. In fact, today, just to give you, I had to make some changes in our management at Ethan Allen. I had to promote some people. I had to make today. But I had conversations today with all of them one at a time. And by the time I was through, they all said, yeah, it's the right thing to do. Because you've got to have people buy in. So the second principle of when you talk of leadership is the relative importance of priorities. Not everything is that important. So it is important, it's a leadership responsibility at every level. Whether you are just getting started or you are a CEO of an enterprise, you always have to ask. Like for instance, at Ethan Allen, many years back, we established 5 priorities. I don't want to hear more than 5. And every Sunday or by midnight, almost over 50 people send a report. Now they don't all report to me on the 5 things. And the 5 things are they have to talk about, first is talent. That's what we're talking about. What have they done to improve talent? Second is what have they done to improve service? Now, we run a sawmill up in Vermont. Their service is very different than a retail in Manhattan. Third thing is we talk about is marketing. What are they doing in marketing? Marketing again is different. Internal marketing, external marketing is important. Fourth is what have they done in technology? Technology has become a way of life. So every week they have to say, what have they done to improve technology? And fifth is social responsibility. Tremendously important. When you establish as a leader, you have to establish what are the important things to do. You have to guide. So I felt these are 5 very important elements. And then one of our leadership principles is speed. If it's something important, you better do it. At Ethan Allen, we use the US Marines philosophy, which is if you're 70% ready, go ahead. If you try to be 100% ready, you're not going to do it. And the last, we have 10 principles, but I will talk about justice. People don't use the word justice in business, but you'll see justice is critically important. Justice is important. For instance, this COVID, it has affected everything we do. In fact, the way we are talking today, we will be meeting physically. I've already had 3 or 4 Zoom calls today. And in fact, it also taught us to be more efficient. So this COVID has made us realize, how do we treat people? For instance, we have thousands of young women working for us, or younger women working. Many of them have children. So we said, yes, use your judgment. Because I know that 1 or 2% of the people may take advantage. But I've always believed that we don't want to have a policy that we have 98% people suffer because 1 or 2% don't do things right. That's very important. When you do that, I tell you, this really is a tremendous team we have. Again, keeping in mind, you talk with cricket. It's one team, one program, one business, which is vertically integrated from manufacturing to retailing to marketing to everything. But it's one team. Not easy, but we've been very lucky and fortunate to run one team and to, and help people grow.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very inspiring. It's a very inspiring story and company and what you've done with it. We're in the midst of a contentious presidential election that demonstrates the highly polarized political climate in this country. Running Ethan Allen, you have seen a unique perspective into the current state of affairs. What have you seen and learned that you think is important for us to know and understand? And maybe you can also speak to, I know that you mentioned Ethan Allen is going to be running a new marketing campaign in China as well, and how bringing together the Chinese and American perspectives too.
Yes, I think, these are, as we all know, challenging times. These are, I have people, my friends, my associates, who have very different perspectives. Some are very pro-President Trump, some are very pro the Democrats. And I know all of them. I think we have to work very hard. That's what I was talking about. This Kathmandu meeting was successful, but I set the principle, and we all have to set the principle. You have to try to understand and empathize with the point of view of others. At the farm, some of my neighbors, one of the neighbors has a sign outside, a big sign. It said, "Guns are welcome here." All right? Guns are welcome here. It's not that far. That is a different perspective. You got to, and he calls me my brother, calls me a friend. I think we have to understand and empathize why people are upset and concerned and fearful. Look at this. America has changed. There are certain people that are changed from a perspective of demographics. It was not that far back when America with the Europeans were in control. Now they're scared. They see things changing. They see that America was the premier producer of products. Now we've lost all that, some because of the fact that other countries became better, but also our leadership over here were short-term thinkers. They gave everything up. Look at this. We are one of the few companies in America that still make 75% of our products here, and we even ship to China. Not easy. And if we didn't have a policy that we even going to operate at less margins, profits, we couldn't have done it. So you have to emphasize the point of view of others. There are people who are concerned, who are worried. They see all people coming in from outside. They say they're taking over. And we then have to say, what do we do to help them understand it better? Some people you may not be able to help, but I think we have to appreciate and understand that there is a point of view of being very concerned. These folks have lost their jobs. Who are the people who are tremendously, you might say, supporting President Trump? Many of them are folks who have lost their jobs to overseas, the people who are worried about people from the outside coming over here and taking over. So we've got to work together to make sure we understand that and explain how all of us are going to help them. Like my associates in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, who are all, I would say, very much, you might say, pro-Trump and others. They welcome me, they embrace me. So we've got to create that kind of a situation that all these folks who and understand their issues, and we bring them in.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been such a pleasure to be able to speak with you. I think Khalid's going to come in and now and do some Q&A. I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's questions and seeing you again soon.
Good, Hillary. Good to talk to you, and you stay well. And I know that you went to Columbia and you've done well at school. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope you and your family stay well as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm Khalid Lul, MALA board member. I'm going to be asking a few questions, and I'm also going to be encouraging our audience to go ahead and submit any questions they might have through the Q&A below. I'm going to start with the first question. As a CEO and leader in a global business, you talk about making difficult decisions. What advice would you give to a young person now who's watching, who may be struggling with this?
Well, first of all, good to see you, and and I read about you and all the great work that you're doing, especially in this COVID situation and helping many areas. So congratulations.
Thank you.
You know, as I said earlier, that we have to work, whatever we do, we have to work hard. Now, when I got involved, and I later on I realized, I said, why did some of these folks give me all this responsibility? When I worked for the Wall Street, and I must have been, I think 26 or 27, I became the chief financial officer of one of the leading Wall Street companies. And I had not studied finance. When I went to Ethan Allen, I said to myself, he wants me to come in and work, and they've got 25, 30 vice presidents, some from Harvard, some from others, all kinds of backgrounds. Here I am, somebody from Brooklyn, and with little knowledge. Why? It took me a long time to understand why, which is when I took on the responsibility, I worked hard at whatever I had to do. And I've got a friend, by the way, my cat Pashmina has just joined me. Pashmina, please sit down. And I took the responsibility and I worked hard at it. And I was a problem solver. I did not take on a problem and say, okay, tell me what to do. I think when you're talking to people who are listening, and younger people, a lot of people believe that they're going to wait until they get a big job, then they're going to do something. Doesn't matter what you're doing, you have to do it right and be a problem solver. I never went and said, okay, what do you think I should do? I said, this is what I think we should do. Tell me if I'm on the right or give me more advice. You do that, makes a big difference.
Thank you. You're also a philanthropist. You're also a legend in the business world, as well as the Muslim American community. How are you leaving a legacy through your giving?
Yes, we are involved with a number of causes from many different areas. I've been involved with areas relating to, for instance, working with a number of think tanks in Washington. I'm on the board of a number of them. I'm on the board of a couple of universities. So helping in terms of, when you get on those boards, you also have to give. So you had to help shape the debate. Then recently, I think that right in our local areas, we have been helping some of the local areas, like for instance, people who are homeless, they need food. I think that's a very, very important area. Like for instance, right now in a business area, we have started a plan in which we are and I've given this authority to many of our folks, and we're doing it in Chicago and other areas actually in a greater way, where we said, okay, a certain percentage of what you sell, give it to the charity that makes the most sense. For instance, in the Chicago and the Heartland area, they're using some charities involved with cancer care. So we got to do it personally, you got to also do. We set up a foundation in the name of our son who passed away, and that foundation has been involved with giving. For instance, we give scholarships. For the last 40 years, we've given about 50 of our Ethan Allen, children of our Ethan Allen employees get scholarship from our own foundation. And that has really helped those young people. So those are the kind of activities you have to do that one can do to help.
You gave a very powerful answer on the polarizing aspects in the US. How can we apply this to our everyday lives?
Well, as I said, I don't see anybody different. People have asked me, you come here, do you see yourself as a Muslim, for instance, or person coming from Kashmir? I said, no. I've looked upon everybody as equal, because we sometimes tend, without understanding it, we do create our own issues. A lot of people come in. We are okay. It's my cat, Pashmina, please. I've got to change this out of here. Okay, she sits right in front of the computer. So, I've always said that we have to not think of anybody as different, but as equal. When we do those kind of things, it's amazing. I've never felt. People have asked me, have you felt that any different coming from Kashmir, being an American Muslim? I said, no, I never thought myself different. And if anybody did think different, it was their problem, not mine. I think that's very, very important. And I think that we all have a responsibility of bringing people together, even if you don't agree. It's tremendously important.
Listening to you is truly inspiring. Any public office in the offing?
Of course, it's public now that because of all those emails that were in the last election campaign that were released, so that I had been approached by. I did work for President Obama, and before that, even with President Bush. But President Obama, I worked technically as in one of the commissions that was established, and I spent 4 years. But he did, and his people did want me to come at that time, could possibly consider in the Secretary of Commerce. I said, no, I like to run an enterprise. I like to run, and that's Ethan Allen. I'll be one member. Here, I'm a captain.
People look up to you for inspiration and mentorship. Who has been your source of inspiration?
I look upon really people who have helped me throughout my life. And when you look at, for instance, when you talk with the business world, certainly the people, the founder, the chairman of Ethan Allen, he's really helped me. He was a tough person. People thought that nobody can work with him. But he did. He was a great inspiration in business. I would say that my mother, from a family side, has been a great inspiration. My mother, she recently passed away right here in New York. We had a great, great pleasure of having her be with us for 21 years after my father passed away in Kashmir. So mother taught us when we were young, even about our religion. She said, and it stuck to me, she said, Islam, the word Islam means that you have to be able to live with people. You have to be able to submit. Islam means submission. And you have to submit to God, and God equals goodness, and you have to be a good person. She said, that's what you should understand about your religion. Now, we did read the Quran at that time in Arabic, didn't understand it. It was later on, many, many years later, I read it in English. But her inspiration about the fact that to be a good person has really been part of my life throughout my life.
Thank you so much for sharing about your family. It's apparent that your family's been also a strong pillar of your leadership. It's very inspiring to hear. I have another question here. What skills do young people need to succeed in corporate America today, whether it is IT, finance, or people skills? What is the most important skill?
Well, I would say that they're all important, but I think the people skills should come first. Because if you are not able to work with people, live with people, nothing much happens. I think today, for instance, people skill, and then after that today, technology is important. Look at our business at Ethan Allen, we got over 2,000 interior designers. Today, we wouldn't be able to do, in this pandemic, they worked because they had a skill, they had customers, and secondly, technology. So I think today, combination of the two, technology alone is not going to do it. And people skill alone is not going to do it. You combine the two, I think that's where the future is.
Your book, Trailblazer, where can your book be available?
Well, to many, I tell you, this will be one of the things we are doing right now in our Ethan Allen is I've started to donate the books. I mean, you can buy it at Amazon and all those other places. Yes, they're all available there. But I'm just saying is to make it available, what we are doing is we just started in some of our design centers, stores or design centers, in which we are making them available so that they can sell it in cooperation with the local charity. So I'm using it as, to help. So whatever they sell with the local charity, they get the money. But if somebody wants to buy it, really, from Amazon to all the other booksellers have it.
How do you keep your team motivated despite conflicts and obstacles?
Well, there are always conflicts. There are always obstacles. You have to understand that there is no such thing that you're going to. The responsibility of a leader is to bring, as I said, to bring people together, to help people understand what's the leader's job. I was impressed many, many years back. I was reading about, I said, what is the attribute of a leader? And the leader, I summarized it. I learned from it. It's nothing new. First, a leader must have knowledge. Second, the leader must have courage. And third, the leader must have wisdom. They all go together. There are a lot of leaders who got courage but no wisdom. When you combine the three things, I think great things happen, and you have to work very, very hard in getting that message across. Now, as I said, we are somewhat unique. We are a company that is vertically integrated, from the concept of ideas to design to manufacture to retail to market. And we've got, as I said, and question earlier was made about China. We have a partner there with 100 locations. And this last year or so, it's been not easy with America-China relations. We've been concerned about. The first thing they've done is they've helped us when this pandemic took place. One of our plants made a lot of these masks for hospitals because we are in the upholstery business, so we did that. But then also we had our China partner ship hundreds of thousands of masks for our people and our clients. We have a great partnership with them. In fact, they are going to run again a campaign starting next month, which is our television campaign in the United States. And the heading of that is Ethan Allen, We Make the American Home. Considering the conflict and the tense situation between China and the United States, I first thought that they would not want to sort of utilize that kind of, but they are. Interestingly, they are, with our partnership, they are getting the message across that Ethan Allen makes the American home and it's important. I was a little bit surprised, but not surprised because they are a leader and they want to differentiate and they want to bring people together. Because today we have to bring people together, not have conflicts.
What is the most dangerous trait in a leader's career?
I would say arrogance. Arrogance, and if you think you're better than everybody else, you got a problem. I think understanding, that's a tremendously important thing to understand, that you have to keep your ego down. that you got to be, at Ethan Allen, for instance, you got leaders, you would not be able to tell who's the vice president and who's got a worker. That's very important. It starts from the leadership. And I work, whenever I have to do, I work with them, right, in any capacity. It's our responsibility. With arrogance, as we all know, is evil.
Thank you. I wanted to be mindful of everybody's time. I got one more question I can ask before we wrap up. You spoke about promoting people earlier. What do you consider before promoting someone?
Well, first I was there. I would say that there are a number of qualifications and traits. First is, are they honest? Are they able to keep their ego down and work with others? Are they able to help others become better? Because the main, as I said, again and again, I've said the main job of a leader is to help their people become better. This I try to convey at every level, so that, as you know, most people think that, I'm the most important. My job is not to help others. So leadership, and it goes back to the fact that, people are got to have knowledge. When you go to those three principles I talked about, when we promote people, you got to have knowledge. You got to then have the courage to do things. It depends on what level you are. And third, very, very important, you got to have wisdom. When you apply those three in general principle, well, it doesn't matter whether it is somebody who's going to run a local plant or one of our retail operations or be a vice president level, those are critical factors at any level.
Awesome. Well, we wanted to thank you so much for this amazing opportunity and conversation. And we also want to thank AJC for the amazing partnership. It's been a great pleasure. And we would love to share your book with our network. So please, if we can make that possible, that would be great. And I want to thank our audience, and thank you so much, everybody, for attending. And we look forward for more great events and partnerships.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I'm very, as I said, that the associations I have had, and especially when we're talking of this Muslim-Jewish partnership, I think it's very, very important. It has been tremendously effective, and I think established guidelines and a precedence for others to do. So it's my pleasure to be with all of you.
Thank you. Stay safe and well, everybody, and have a great night.
Thank you very much.